Good evening, everyone. I am Chris, and I am back with another review for Amazon's desecration of Tolkien's life's work, which is, of course, The Rings of Power. We are up to episode 3 today. Episode 3 is called Adar. Adar? I think pretty sure it's Adar. And I have thoughts, and I'm here to talk about it. I'm going to give people a chance to jump in the chat. Hopefully, we get a good discussion going like we did last week. So before I get to anything, let's do a little bit of housekeeping at first. Please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams, and of course, more Rings of Power reviews as and when they come out. I'm pretty sure this is going to be week to week, so I think we said last week we're going to shoot for every single Friday at 11 p.m. British Standard Time. And it's worked pretty well so far. So let's just stick to that schedule for now and see what we come up with. I'm going to be reviewing a lot more in the upcoming weeks. There's a lot of TV shows coming out. I hope you guys appreciate the sacrifice that I made today by choosing to watch this episode for this review instead of a TV show that came out today that I really wish I was watching, which is Cobra Kai Season 5. Cobra Kai Season 5 came out today on Netflix. It's my favorite TV show currently in like the last few years. I absolutely adore Cobra Kai. It's a really, really good send-up to The Karate Kid. And fingers crossed that Season 5 is just as good as all the previous series that we've had so far. So I'll have to find out. I need to try and find time to watch it, actually. It's going to be some point next week. I do actually want to apologize as well for the current state that I'm in. I have gone down with some kind of, I don't know, allergy, or maybe it's hay fever or something. But so periodically I might be a bit bunged up, but I'm still going to talk. I'm still going to get through this review. You've just got to put up with this and this. So, I do apologize, but I've got to do what I got to do. And do follow me on Twitter as well. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor. I'm going to be seeing a lot of films over the next couple of days at the cinema and stuff like that. And I don't know whether I'll be able to jump on like a full live review for them. I don't even know if you guys are particularly interested in seeing a review on them. One of which is going to be the rescreening of Jaws, which is in 3D, the original Steven Spielberg Jaws film. I'm going to be seeing that on Sunday evening. So if you guys would like a review for that, then I can jump on a live stream. It's probably going to be a really quick one just to let you know my thoughts on the 3D conversion and what it was like. Plus, I haven't seen Jaws in a number of years, so it'll be very much like revisiting that film. So, but even if I don't do a review on it in terms of my actual channel, I'll probably post a quick little written review of it, which you can find on my Twitter. So go and give me a follow on there at Hobbit Fan Editor. And in the meantime, let me know what you think of the Rings of Power. Did you enjoy episode 3? Do you think that episode 3 is the strongest episode of the series so far? Or do you think it's just as bad as the first 2 episodes were? In my opinion, at least. But whether you enjoy the series so far, whether you're absolutely loving it and you think it's the greatest series ever, or whether you think that it's terrible, like I do, I'm open to all opinions and no one's going to berate your opinion at all. I like to keep this channel open to discussion, open to all different opinions, so that we can have a conversation about it. So hopefully we have a good conversation about it tonight as well. Okay, I have notes. I have notes. I guess you guys, do you guys want to know if I liked this episode or not? No, I didn't. I didn't like this episode either. I have notes. I have notes on this thing, and I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, I'm doing it the wrong way. You guys can't see that, but it's fine. I promise you that there are notes on this page. Hey, dude. So we've got a comment from Everything in Middle Earth. What do you think of the show? He's then followed it up with, "It was so boring." That is precisely, and it continues. And the writing is bad. Everything in Middle Earth is just doing. Oh, hang on. The sea is always right. I have that written down. Dude. So don't worry. I've got you covered. Everything in Middle Earth is just doing my job for me right now. He's pretty much, he or she, could be she, I don't know. Just voicing all of my opinions right now. So in answer to your question, your first question, what do you think of the show? So last week I kind of mentioned, I should open this like every single episode of this. I should say this just so people know. I don't profess to be a Tolkien scholar by any stretch of the imagination. I've read The Lord of the Rings probably 4 times, The Hobbit countless times. It's my favorite book of all time. That one I kind of know like the back of my hand more than any of the other ones. But The Silmarillion I've read 3 times. I've read Unfinished Tales, Children of Húrin, and I think that's it. I own all the 12 volumes of the History of Middle Earth, but I haven't got to those just yet. So I know my shit, but I don't know everything. Like, I can't tell you years, I can't tell you all the characters' names and all the vast lore, but I know the basics, so I can hold my own. But I do want to stress that because I know what us Tolkien fans are like. So if I get some information wrong, I'm owning up to it right now. So going into the show, from everything that we'd seen from the trailers and the featurettes and the interviews and the really embarrassing marketing that came out for this thing, I knew that this was going to be completely divorced from Tolkien. I knew that this was just going to be based on Tolkien in name only. Using characters' names like Elrond and Galadriel and Gil-galad and Elendil and stuff like that, but none of the characters were actually going to be off the page, and nothing was going to be remotely lore accurate. So I was going into the show prepared for that. So last week when we got the first 2 episodes released, which, by the way, if you haven't done so already, please do go back and, well, not right now, please do carry on watching this live stream if you're watching it. But I do have an episode on the channel for episodes 1 and 2. I think I'm going to create a separate playlist for this series as well. So by next week, you'll be able to find all of the episodes in one very neat playlist. So going into last week, as I said, I knew that it wasn't going to be faithful to Tolkien. So I wanted to go into it and just review it on its own merits and just kind of review it as a generic run-of-the-mill fantasy show. And if it was good, if it was great in that regard, then brilliant. I'd say that it's still an absolute bastardization of Tolkien's work. It's still completely unfaithful to the source material, and I hate it for that. When they literally had the keys to the kingdom, and they could have done many wonderful things with a TV show based in Middle Earth, but they chose not to. But I could at least say, I could at least say that, as a fantasy show, as just a piece of television, it's good. It's solid. The acting's great, the story's whatever, and the writing's good. But I can't even say that, and pretty much exactly what you just said as well. We're 3 episodes into this thing right now, and we're still setting things up, and I still can't tell you what's happening with the story. It feels like the story is stretched so thin, nothing major is happening right now, and there's no kind of narrative thrust to it. There's nothing really happening. So everything that I'm going to mention in this review is like stuff that I'm seeing on screen, but it doesn't feel like it's really advancing anything. It's just all we're really getting at the moment are kind of vague threads to, the Sauron is returning in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie, and bad things are going to happen, and mystery with, like, is it Gandalf? Is it just a regular wizard? Like, who is it? So that's it, really. It's just like, I suppose, a little bit of intrigue with that kind of stuff. But there's nothing in terms of, there's no meat. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. Like, there's no meat to the actual story. I don't know why I did that. Maybe because the orcs. We get to see orcs in this episode. We get to see proper orcs. And, I'll go into my positives in a minute. I think the orcs are pretty okay. Like, I look at them and go, that's an orc. And they sound like orcs as well. What I appreciate most about the orcs, and something that I thought was really lacking, unfortunately, in Peter Jackson's Hobbit trilogy, was the fact that pretty much all of the orcs spoke in black speech, and I felt that really took away from their personalities. Some of my favorite moments in the Lord of the Rings trilogy are the back and forth between the Uruk-hai and the orcs, and some of the most quotable lines in the whole trilogy come from the orcs. What about their legs? They don't need those. Like, all that kind of stuff. As I said, looks like meat's back on the menu, boys. Like, yeah, why can't we have some meat? Love all that stuff. And then when you get to the Hobbit trilogy and they're all speaking in, the language of black speech, it's I don't know. It just feels it's less quotable. It's less memorable. And I just thought it was a bit of a shame, really, that they kind of lost out on that with a lot of the orcs. So a positive for this one, we get Cockney orcs again, which is great. And other positives, Numenor looked quite nice. And that's been the only positive thing I've really said about the series so far. I don't think all of it looks amazing. I do think that the CGI is incredibly noticeable in some scenes, but I don't know. Some of the establishing shots and everything of Numenor when they were sailing in, I was like, you know what? That looks kind of nice. They've kind of gone with a Mediterranean aesthetic to it, I guess, but you get the vastness of Numenor from the establishing shots and everything, and I was like, it's probably not too dissimilar from how I imagined it when I was reading the Silmarillion and Unfinished Tales, maybe. Everything in Middle Earth says, I really don't get why they have made Galadriel so unlikable, and I'm also from England. Oh, nice one, man. Good to see you. Or woman. I don't know if you're a guy or a woman. I just assumed you were a dude. Yeah, and by the way, we're going to get to that in a second, dude, about Galadriel being unlikable, because she reached critical mass this episode. She's already been very unlikable, but by Christ, she took the cake today. She didn't even just take the cake, she took the whole goddamn bakery. She is a loathsome cunt this whole entire episode. And we're going to get to it. So, we're going to start working. Again, apologies for this, but you know, we're going to get through it. I'm going to try and hold it together as much as I can. So we start off with elves digging in a pit, and I've already forgotten the name of the elf. Whatever his name is, It's not Elbrand. It's not Halbrand's the dude in Numenor. What's the name of the elf? The elf with the fade, the diversity elf. What's his name? I've forgotten his name. Digging in a pit. The orcs just take them to like some kind of slave pit, and there's loads of imagery. You can see what they're trying to do. There's loads of imagery of chains and all that kind of stuff. It's very on the nose. It's very noticeable what they're trying to do. But as I say, Cockney orcs are cool. Oh, there we go. Thank you for jumping in there. Aaron Deer. Okay. This is what I mean. I'm 3 episodes in and I'm still forgetting the characters' names because it's just so bland. They're so bland, and Aaron Deer as well is just bland, and they're kind of, you can tell they're trying to make him the Legolas of the series. You know, Orlando Bloom Legolas. There was more to him and there was more character to him, but he's the very kind of deadpan, emotionless, Vulcan-like badass, I guess, that they're trying to go with, you know, for the show. So they're just digging in a pit. The orcs just throw them in and say, dig this pit. So he and a few other elves and a few other captors and everything, they start digging, and that's it. That's the intro to our episode. I'm going to carry on. I've written the notes in order that they occurred in the episode, but really not much happened this whole episode. And this episode was like over an hour, or at least an hour it clocked in, and I don't feel like anything was accomplished in that time. So we then pick up with Halbrand and Galadriel, who were cast adrift in the episode conveniently called Adrift. The last episode, they were picked up by a mysterious silhouette on a ship. That silhouette turns out to be Elendil, one of our named characters from The Lord of the Rings, who is a lowly sea captain. Now, I don't think Tolkien wrote an extensive amount about Elendil's backstory and his occupation and what he does, but I do know that Elendil was the son of Amandil, who was a Lord of the Faithful, a very well-respected man for a time at least on Numenor before Ar-Pharazôn took over, and there was this big divide between the Faithful and Ar-Pharazôn. More on Ar-Pharazôn later, because they have fucked that all the way up in this show, and I will go into that in just a bit. So you get the impression from the source material, you know, Elendil's descended from this long-respected line of lords. But in this one, they've just kind of made him a sea captain, and we don't really get much about his backstory, so I don't know how much I can really harp on that, because they've kind of gone with the argument, well, Tolkien didn't necessarily write it, which gives us the freedom to do this, which is a very, very tenuous line to go down. There's a lot of things they've done with that. I think they've taken a line about Galadriel as well, how she's leading armies and she doesn't do sorcery and she's not a mage apparently. She's just kind of like this brute force, masculine, riding into battle in cavalry charges, Joan of Arc kind of character. And people have gone to a line in the appendices where I think Tolkien said, and I might be paraphrasing here, I think he said something like Galadriel had the eye of a commander, or helped in the revolution or something, or the liberation of some provinces or something like that. And they've just taken that and they've gone, right, she's the best warrior, she's the scourge of the orcs. She is like this unstoppable warrior woman. And I'm like, no, that is not who Galadriel was in any way, shape, or form. Everything in Middle Earth says, I know that the best way to get your demands from a host that doesn't like you is to threaten and intimidate them. Nice job, Galadriel. Yes, we're going to get onto that in a second, because we're on exactly the same page with this. So what did I say? Yeah, I said Numenor looks nice. So yeah, we're introduced to Elendil, who's like a lowly sea captain. You know, he's got a family, he's a family man, he's lost his wife. And what it reminds me very much of is how, you know, we had Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, who's very different from his book counterpart. In the book, he accepts his quest to become king. You know, he accepts his lineage and what he's destined to become, and he's proud of that shit. Like, he gets the reforged sword of Anduil right after they leave Rivendell in the Fellowship of the Ring. And he's very kingly, and he's very proud, and he's very confident in becoming king and his birthright. Whereas in the movie, and I actually appreciated this about the movie, they wanted to give him a bit more substance. They wanted to show him in a bit more of a vulnerable light, like he's trying to escape his destiny, and he fears his heritage and what happened with Isildur. And they do kind of vilify Isildur a little bit more in the movies compared to what he is in the books. In the books, he's more of a tragic hero kind of character who's just, was susceptible to the ring, whereas they kind of vilify Isildur a little bit more, I would say, in the movies. But I actually really like the progression that Aragorn goes through in the movies, and I think that works a lot more for a film. I think if Aragorn was just this kind of like pompous asshole who was just like, super confident from the beginning, that's fine, and that would probably work, but there's not really an evolution of the character, so I can absolutely see why they wanted to make some changes with the character there, and have him doubt himself and then obviously rise above it, because it's a character arc for a trilogy. They then tried to repeat that character arc for the character of Bard the Bowman in the Hobbit trilogy, which did not work for me. Bard in the books he's the captain of the guard. He's the captain of the guard of Dale. And he's ordering all the archers, to fire on Smaug in the books and everything. And it's awesome and it's cool. And the animated Hobbit film actually got that right. But in the books, it was like, in the films, it's like, oh no, we need to make him like the Aragorn of this film. So, we get tragic backstory. A past heritage of Lord Girion, Lord of Dale, who tried to slay Smaug, and there's this whole baggage, and there's this whole, grey area of his past of how his descendants failed Dale, and he feels responsible for that, and he's escaping his destiny, and eventually he rises up and becomes King of Dale. So it's very similar to Aragorn's kind of plotline. On top of that, they gave him dead wife. They gave him, 3 kids, because, audiences love a family man, and his family is absolutely pointless in the films. They don't do anything. You can just take them out and nothing would change. And it feels like they've kind of done the same with Elendil here. Like, they've given him this tragic backstory and made him like a lowly sea captain, and eventually he will become, King Elendil. On top of that, we also get introduced to his family. So initially, I think they mentioned that he only has one son. And I thought, oh, so Anarion's bit the dust then. They've got rid of him completely. But no, Isildur is mentioned. And then later on, they do mention his other brother. But one person they have created out of whole cloth is sister. So you have a twin sister. Yeah, Isildur apparently now has a sister. Elendil has a daughter who is not in the book and was only added into the show to inject more female energy into the show, because the show didn't already have enough of that. And she wants to be a builder. She wants to be part of the Builders Guild. And there's this really cringe-worthy soap opera-ish scene where Elendil sat with Isildur at the table, and she comes running in like, I got accepted into college. I got accepted into the Builders Guild. And it's like, why should I concern myself with this character? Like, why is she in this? Like, take her out of it, and we could actually have some scenes of, you know, Elendil with his son, or even not spend that screen time somewhere else, and actually delve into stuff in a more deep, profound way, rather than just creating a character out of whole cloth. And it's so obvious why she's there as well. It's so obvious. Let's have a look. What else have we got on here? So I wanted to go back to something Everything in Middle Earth said not too long ago. The sea is always right. Yeah, this was okay. So I know that the Numenorians love the sea, and they're a seafaring people. I get that, but they made it really weird. They made it like it's some kind of sacred mantra, like chant thing that they have every single time, almost like it's a religious type of situation, where they swear fealty to the sea. It's very straight. It kind of reminded me more of Game of Thrones with the Greyjoys. Where you have is it Aeron Damphair, and he's like baptizing people, and they drown people, don't they? The drowned god or whatever it is. They drown people, and then if they start breathing again, then they've kind of been reborn from the sea. And with Game of Thrones, that kind of works with the Greyjoys, that it is more of a religious thing and bringing religion into it. But I don't know, it just, maybe that would be fine, but it just came across really hokey in the show. And something else that came across as really hokey, you guys are probably thinking that I'm nitpicking the hell out of this thing, and I probably am a little bit. But the costume design for Numenor, I absolutely hated. I thought the armor looked terrible, just really, really bad. They've kind of gone with like a scale motif on the undershirts, and then just kind of like a flat. I know that other channels have called it like moob armor, but it's like I don't know. It's just, it looks like there's no detail on it or anything. It just looks like this really cheap, mass-produced, just gold, flat-chested thing. It just looks like absolute shit. And, I was watching this and thinking about the amazing costume design and artistry in Peter Jackson's film trilogy. And, we didn't see loads of Numenor, but we did see the soldiers of Numenor's armor. In the Last Alliance, we saw Elendil's armor, and we saw Isildur's armor. It's this beautiful, ornate stuff with feathers, seabird feathers and everything like that. And it looks right. And you can see the progression from, that kind of armor into what would become the Gondorian armor. And that's what I mean. There is a sense of world building there. There's a sense of, even just looking at a piece of armor, you can tell all the history in it. You can tell the lineage. You can tell of what race that armor belongs to. From a mere piece of architecture, you can tell whether it's elven, or you can tell whether it's dwarven, or you can tell whether it's made by man, and you can tell exactly which province of man has built that. There's a difference between the architecture from Rohan and the armor of Rohan, and the ornate quality of the armor compared to Gondor. And even the armor looked like it had a history and everything like that. But you look at it in this, and the costume design is just absolutely terrible. Especially with Numenor, it's kind of all over the shop. So you've got these really embarrassing, like, gold-plated whatever they are, with like a kind of scaly blue undershirt, and everyone's wearing this shit. And then Miriel as well. We'll get onto Miriel in just a second. She's kind of got like this blue scaly. It almost, as I say, it looks kind of Mediterranean, or like a little bit Egyptian, I guess. There are some elements where they're in the street, and Halbrand runs into those men of Numenor, who, by the way, should all be like 7 foot tall or 6 foot tall or something like that. Like, the men of Numenor are meant to be like, all of them are meant to be like fucking tanky. And I guess you could probably say, oh, well, in Lord of the Rings, Isildur and Elendil weren't that tall. Maybe that's the case, but they're meant to be like properly imposing, and none of these people look particularly imposing, at least not to me. There are moments where you're walking through the town, through the city of Numenor, and it almost looks like it's something out of ancient Rome. So there's like a whole bunch of influences, I guess, they've got. But even like the civilians of Numenor, and it's just all wrong. It just looks terrible. The haircuts, just everything. The attention to detail in this show is just non-existent. And compared to, Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings, visually, you will never have another adaptation of Lord of the Rings that even comes close. Seaward Man says, I'm 6'1". You'd be a little bit short for a Numenorian, my dude, but you could pass for a man, so that's all good. I think Elendil's meant to be like 7'1" or 7. Like, he's fucking tall. They are like absolute specimens of humans. I've mentioned this before as well, but the fact that Numenor being a multicultural society just doesn't make any sense at all. And I've mentioned that in previous, trailer reactions, and indeed in my episode 1 and 2 of this. It's just I'm fine with them, having multiple different races in this show as long as it's congruent, as long as it makes sense with Tolkien's lore, and it doesn't, and it breaks the law for me, and I'm questioning things. I'm seeing Miriel, Queen Miriel, in this. We'll get onto that in a second. The fact that she's a queen, I'm seeing Queen Miriel in this, and I'm thinking, well, when did people venture over from Harad and Rune? Did they like sail over and copulate with the people of Numenor? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. It breaks the law. Like, Middle Earth is a very multicultural place. It absolutely is, but they're kind of defined in their own provinces, and that's just the way that the law was written. And Peter Jackson realized that, and he honored that with the Lord of the Rings and indeed the Hobbit trilogy. There were some moments in Dale, but I could kind of go, well, it's a trading town, so I'm fine with that. Some like background characters and whatnot, I'm like, that's fine. But this, it's just, and you can clearly tell why Amazon have done it as well. It's just a way to get the message across, isn't it? I tell you what has been really funny though. Amazon are clutching at straws right here because they are fighting a losing battle. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people that absolutely do love this show and are very vocal about loving this show. And if they want to love it and they do enjoy it, then that's absolutely fine. I'm not going to besmirch anyone's opinions on it. But you can see the damage control that Amazon are having to take marketing-wise with this. And it's not our first rodeo. They've released a picture of Sean Astin, Elijah Wood, Dominic Monaghan, and Billy Boyd, all in shirts saying, Middle Earth is a multicultural place and we do not agree with racism. And obviously racism is a fucking horrible thing. And the thing is, maybe some people who are speaking out about this show, maybe they do throw racist things out there, and I don't condone that at all, and they're fucking horrible people. But people like myself that say things mean things in Middle Earth, and there is a clear layout in terms of the lore and how things are set up and the geography and the world that was created by Tolkien, they do mean things. And as I said, it wasn't a fucking problem. When the Lord of the Rings trilogy came out, everyone fucking loved that. It won all of the Oscars. People still continue to watch it today. It's not a problem. The Hobbit trilogy wasn't a fucking problem. Now, all of a sudden, it is a problem. You know what I mean? It's like no one batted a fucking eyelid when those trilogies came out. Now, all of a sudden, we've got to put our own agenda. We've got to put our own political standpoint on it. And it's just absolutely laughable to see that the lengths that Amazon are going to, the fact that you can't review the episodes now. Apparently they said you can't review an episode until 72 hours after the episode's actually aired. To my understanding, that's not the case. Like, that you still can't review it even after 72 hours because they know that the vast majority of people really fucking hate this shit, and they're trying to silence that voice because they want to save face, and they want, all the articles that you see on all these sites are like, oh, Rings of Power is this game-changing thing, and it's a lot of these, every single trailer and featurette that's come out of this thing has been ratioed from all corners of the world. Tolkien fans aren't having this shit. Like, we're not, and it's just funny because Amazon isn't the first studio, and it's not the first show to just call all of its fans racist if they don't like the product. The same thing happened with Star Trek Picard. The same thing happened with Star Wars. It's just an absolute underhanded scapegoat argument that studios have, and it's really fucking old now. And the fact that we have seen it with so many studios, it's just hilarious to see Amazon really trying to double down to like cover their own asses with this thing. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from that. So they're rescued by Elendil and they're taken to Numenor. And as I said, some nice establishing shots of Numenor. I don't necessarily have a problem with the way that Numenor looks. I don't like the costume design, but in terms of the actual design of Numenor itself, the island, it's pretty cool. I don't mind it. And then they touch down, and then they're basically like, right, take me to your leader. And they're taken to Queen Miriel. Not before Halbrand, who totally isn't Sauron, by the way. Did I mention that Halbrand isn't Sauron? He's totally Sauron. As another little visual nod to him clearly being Sauron, he walks past the blacksmiths and he looks like he pays very close attention to it. And you can see that, he has an interest in smithcraft, which, if you've read the Silmarillion, you'll know exactly why he has an interest in smithcraft, having trained under Aule. By the way, Aule's got a lot of answering to do, because I think, I don't know if Morgoth trained with Aule, but I know that Sauron certainly did. So I think people need to go back to Aule and have some words with him, because, he's pretty dodgy. He's pretty dodgy, that Aule. So yeah, they're taken to Queen Miriel, and I mean, this is all wrong. This is just, it's just taking the appendices of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings and just wiping their asses with it, because it's just all wrong. Queen Miriel was not a queen. She was meant to be queen. She was all geared up. She was ready to go to be Queen of Numenor, and then Ar-Pharazôn swooped in and basically forced her to marry him, to usurp the throne. So right now we should have King Ar-Pharazôn, and Miriel, who's just kind of like this, I mean, she is wedded to him, she is his spouse, but she's not to blame. She's kind of overruled by everything Ar-Pharazôn's doing. But no, because we need more female empowerment in this show, don't we? So we've got Chancellor Pharazôn, and Queen Miriel. So it's just all fucked. It's all fucked. Pharazôn just lacks all of the power and commanding presence that Ar-Pharazôn does in the books. Ar-Pharazôn is this completely mentally deranged, crazy, power-hungry king of Numenor who leads an assault upon Sauron to the lands of Mordor, captures Sauron, imprisons him, escorts him back to Numenor, jails him, and then slowly but surely, because Sauron's, the corrupting power that Sauron has, he slowly gets into the hearts and minds of not only Ar-Pharazôn, but a lot of the people of Numenor, which creates a divide among the people of Numenor. And you've got the faithful, led by Elendil, and of course his son Isildur and Anarion. And you've got the people who are like doing, it's basically like devil worship kind of shit. They're doing human sacrifice. They're doing absolutely really horrible, fucked up, debauched shit. And Sauron kind of turns them against the gods. He says, they won't let you sail into the west. They won't grant you eternal life. You should go and pick a fight with the gods. That's going to end well. So they do exactly that. Power-hungry Ar-Pharazôn assembles a massive fleet to try and wage war on the west. And then Eru Ilúvatar, divine intervention, comes in and sends a massive tidal wave, which completely devastates Numenor, sinks it beneath the waves. Numenor itself being Tolkien's answer to the Atlantis myth. And then Elendil and his sons and the rest of the faithful, who had already set sail away from Numenor. They didn't want any part in the battle or the war. They were trying to sail to Middle-earth. The wave pushes them onto the shore, and then they'd eventually go on to found the lands of Arnor and Gondor. You can probably find a lot more channels that go into the lore a lot deeper than I can. That's just my base knowledge of it. So yeah, it's just all wrong. Like, we've got Chancellor Pharazôn, and it's just why is he a chancellor, and why do we have Queen Miriel? Anyway, getting on to your point right now, where you said the best way to get your demands from a host that doesn't like you is to threaten and intimidate them. Nice job, Galadriel. That is the next line that I have. I've got Galadriel is rude and a terrible emissary. She completely pisses and moans about being rescued. I think that's later on, actually, where she's talking to Elendil, and Galadriel says to Elendil, "I wish you hadn't brought me here." It's like, right, we should have let you drown in the fucking sundering seas then. Like, you were on death's door, you were on a wreck, you'd been attacked by a worm, and you've just been rescued by a ship, and now you're saying, like, oh, you should have just left us, like, you shouldn't have brought me here. Like, you ungrateful fucking bitch. Like, we saved your life, and now you're complaining about it. Overly rude. Like, if she's trying to curry favor with it, and the thing is, like, Galadriel should know this. Like, she is a good emissary. She is a wise counselor. She is compassionate. She's commanding, but she's compassionate, and she's a fantastic. Like, she forms the White Council, for fuck's sake, which is all about discourse and communication and deliberation. She is herself a ruler of a kingdom alongside her husband Celeborn, who is nowhere to be seen. And I'm going to get onto that in a second, where we find ourselves in the Second Age, narratively where we should be. Where's Celeborn? Where's Celebrian? Why isn't Galadriel a wife and a mother? Like, Celebrian is Elrond's wife, who is the mother of his child, who is Arwen. Where, you know, we're at least 3,000 years into the Second Age right now, as far as, you know, if I've done the math correctly. Where are all these people? We've still got a very much young and inexperienced Galadriel, who still throws her toys out of the pram if she doesn't get her own way. Every single time you see her in this episode, apart from one scene which is hilarious and is indeed the thumbnail of this video, I'm going to bring this up in just a second. It's absolutely hilarious. I was pissing myself laughing at this scene. Other than that, every single expression of Galadriel in this face is just of scorn and distaste and arrogance, and she's just absolutely reviled. She's just an absolutely fucking ungrateful human being in this, or elf, sorry. Yeah, and she's just like being threatening. She's being demanding. She's stirring the pot. She's not trying to like curry favor with Miriel at all, or the people of Numenor. And it's Halbrand who has to step in and go like, whoa, okay, back it off. Like, why don't you take a few days to reach a decision? We're gonna go and chill with your blessing, and, you know, 1,000 blessings on you and your family. It's Halbrand who steps in and completely diffuses the situation, but Galadriel just goes in all guns blazing and is just this really hateful, horrible, spiteful. She reminded me a lot of Daenerys in this episode, actually. Just really like petulant little girl kind of thing, and it's just, this ain't Galadriel. This ain't Galadriel. This is an imposter. Imrahil gets a mention. I'm wondering if that's meant to be Prince Imrahil. I'm trying to. I don't think the ages. No, the ages wouldn't match up at all, would they? Oh Christ, no, because we'd be into the Third Age with that. Although you never know. I don't know. I'm guessing this is an Imrahil of old, but, you know, Prince Imrahil is the Prince of Dol Amroth, if I remember correctly. Imrahil. Prince Imrahil. Is he one of the? I'm pretty sure he's Dol Amroth. I might be mistaken in that, actually. If someone can correct me, then please do. As I say, I don't know all of my Tolkien lore, but I do recognize the name Imrahil, and I'm pretty sure that he shows up in the Third Age. So I don't know. Maybe this is his great granddaddy. Let's see. Let's carry on going through my notes. My next note is, Isildur has a sister! Exclamation mark, question mark, exclamation mark, question mark. And I put, acting is so cringe. I think that was the scene that I referred to. It just felt very soap opera-ish. It didn't feel at all Tolkien. It just, like, as I say, it lacks all of the poetry and the quality of writing, the depth of writing that Tolkien had in his books, and which was even carried over into the Lord of the Rings trilogy as well. There was a line in this, and I think Miriel says it. She's talking to Elendil, and she says, "The sea cannot commit treason," which strikes me as a line that the writing team thought was really, was really clever and really like, oh yeah, the sea cannot commit treason, Elendil, and it's a terrible line and it makes no sense, and the writing continues to be fucking awful this whole series. Everything in Middle Earth says she smiles once. This is referring to Galadriel. She smiles once this episode, like she's so grumpy. Yeah, she's just so miserable. This is the same Galadriel who gave Gimli 3 hairs from her golden head. The Lady of Light. This is that same lady. Yeah, very ladylike. All of this episode. Okay, so then we cut back to... I'm going to have to scroll back up because you did give me his name and I've already forgotten it. Arondir. We cut back to Arondir, and the orcs want them to cut down a tree. They want to cut down this tree because they're digging this trench, which looks like a mass grave or something, and they want them to just carry on this trench. Oh no, they're making tunnels, aren't they, so they can get to places. They want him to cut down this tree, and the elves are of nature, and they don't want to cut down this tree. And we have this long, drawn-out sequence where the elves don't want to fell this tree because this tree has been a part of these lands for many years, and you know what elves are like. Ugh. And the orcs are like, get back there and smash it down. And this one guy who's with Arondir, he stands up to the orcs and he says, no, we will cut around. And then this one orc steps up and goes, I like the cut of this elf's jib. He's earned himself some water rations for you and your group. And there's quite a nice bit of tension here, I suppose. This really delay thing, like, oh, is it poison? I was imagining it to be like that gloopy, blood, syrupy kind of stuff from the Two Towers extended edition. It's like, sick is he? Give him some medicine, boys! And they pour like this, sludge down Merry's throat. Can't take his draught! That scene. I was expecting it to be that in the canteen, but it's actual water. Can orcs drink water? Like, can they drink natural water? Was that from the orcs' own canteen, or were they carrying water to give to the prisoners? I don't know, but something about like the purity and cleanness of water doesn't really line up for me with the orcs, and I would imagine, like the Lord of the Rings films, that they would, and I think it's even mentioned in the book as well, that's very same scene that I mentioned, the orcs are all corrupted. They are corrupted beings, so they drink like this horrible, nasty shit. They're eating maggoty bread for 3 stinking days. They're eating maggoty bread. They're drinking this horrible, syrupy gloop that looks like engine oil. I don't know. Would they be drinking water? I'm not sure if it's from the orcs' own canteen. Anyway, there's this like tense scene where it all goes quiet and it all goes into slow-mo. And, they're sizing the orcs up and they're sipping it. And he's like, well, it tastes okay. He's passing it back to his guys. And then all of a sudden, this orc slits one of the elves' throats. And there's not much blood. Bear that in mind, because there is a scene coming up where there is a lot of blood. So he slits him on the throat, and it just looks like he's cut himself during shaving, but, he's dead. And I'm like, oh no, what a shame, these elves that I didn't know and didn't have any character and I don't give a fuck about. And it plays it out like it's meant to be really sad. It kind of goes all into slow-mo and it plays like this ethereal music, like what happens when Haldir dies in the Two Towers. But at that point, Haldir was actually a pretty fucking cool character and could hold his own. And even in a very small amount of screen time, had way more impact with his death than this elf did. Everything in Middle-earth, going back to Galadriel, he says, where's Celeborn during all of this? Yes, where is Celeborn? Where the fuck is Celeborn? Why isn't Elrond, leading soldiers into battle to fight the armies of Mordor and the orcs? Like, where is he? Oh, he's having a sledgehammer contest with a dwarf in Moria. Great. That's the Elrond that we all know from the books. So I wanted to bring this up as well. So, the elves, the orcs are like, cut this tree down. And the elves have like this, are all of nature. It's like, no, we can't cut this tree down. But then I'm also thinking, well, where do elves get wood for their bows that they make? They also make ships, right? They probably make structures they do. They make structures within the trees for their homes, which are clearly made of wood. So is it something like, unless you say some kind of sacred rite to the tree before you cut it down? Like, do you get what I'm saying? Like, why do the elves have such a hard time of cutting down this tree? If it was like a super, super sacred tree, then that's fine. But the way that they talk about it, it's just a tree that's been there for a long time. And it's not like this special... It's not like an Ent. It's not Old Man Willow. It's not a named tree. It's not one of the... Oh God! What are they called? The trees that grow in Lothlorien, Malorn. It's not like a Malorn tree or anything like that. It's just a tree. So I don't know. I don't know where the elves stand on that. It's interesting anyway. So right after that, I might be jumping ahead here, but I may as well just finish off this storyline. They try to make an escape of it. There's the scene that you see from the trailer where he's jumping on chains and he's flying, doing all like this ninja acrobatic shit. And then the orcs are like, release the warg. And then I'm like, oh shit, okay. And I was thinking that the wolves that we saw in episodes 1 and 2 with the Harfoots, I thought that they were the wargs. But no, we get a new design for a warg, and I've written it on here. I've put that the warg looks worse than the CGI from 2002, and I stand by that shit. This looks terrible. This looks like some kind of crazy cartoony hyena thing. It almost looks like Taz the Tasmanian Devil or something. It looks terrible. And I don't know if it's because a lot of the background and like coupled with the acrobatic shit, there's a lot of CGI on screen, so it stands out more. Whereas with the warg scene from the Two Towers, they actually filmed on location, so there was a better blend of CGI and practical shit. Hell, even the wargs in the Hobbit look better than this thing. Yeah, it just looked like some kind of like crazed mad dog thing with rabies, but it didn't really feel wargish to me. Now, I mentioned... Sorry, that's amazing. Everything in Middle-earth says the warg looks like he's lost some chromosomes. Yeah, he does a bit. Yeah, you're right there. Oh, that's great. That's the comment of the night right there. So I mentioned before, right, when the orc slits that elf's throat, and I said there's barely any blood. It's like they cut away when it happens, and then when it cuts back, there's only like a little tiny little slither of blood, when it was clearly meant to be a thing where like the orc had opened his entire throat and would just be gushing blood. But I thought, oh, maybe, it's Lord of the Rings, they don't want to show much violence. Okay, well, there are 2 other scenes in this episode. I'm going to talk about one of those scenes right now. When the warg is released, he completely fucking disembowels one of the elves. And you see it as well. Like, he tackles the elf to the ground and bites his stomach and just rips everything out. And there's blood and there's guts and there's entrails, and it completely disembowels him. Which I don't have a problem with. Like, I don't have a problem with violence and stuff like that. It's just be consistent with it. And I'm going to jump back to Numenor now, because the other scene that comes to mind is where Sauron goes absolutely insane with the men in Numenor, and there's like compound fractures, and he's like splattering people's heads against stone walls. He probably killed a few guys actually in this scene. There's also this, and they did this shit in episode 1, I think, as well, when Galadriel killed the snow troll. There's a bit where like blood, like CGI blood, hits the camera, and it's clearly done as like a stylistic thing. I really can't stand that. I hate when they kind of remind you that it's a camera. It's like, why is there a camera in Middle-earth? We're meant to be just like an observer of this history, of this legend, the legendarium on screen. I hate when stuff like interacts with the cameras, or something nudges into the camera and moves it, or if you get like blood splattered on the camera. It just takes me out of it. It's a stylistic choice that's done in a few things, and to my knowledge, I don't think that was done in Lord of the Rings. I'm now trying to wrap my brain to see if anything like that did happen in the Lord of the Rings. The only thing that comes to mind maybe is in the whole warg scene in the Two Towers. I know that a lot of orcs get knocked into the camera, but it doesn't like nudge the camera. It doesn't like jostle the camera. It's just a lot of close-up shots, a lot of wargs pouncing towards the camera, and, orcs sort of like rolling towards the camera. Everything in Middle-earth says, yeah, I'm not a fan of the blood splat on the camera. It's just a slight thing, but it always kind of takes me out of it. It's like a fourth wall break. It reminds me that I'm watching. I don't know. It just takes me out of the immersion, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Let's see. One of my other notes, I don't know which bit this was at. I've put, it was probably during the fight scene, actually, where Halbrand just fucking murders everyone. I've put the whole show doesn't feel like Middle-earth or any kind of it doesn't feel legendary in any way, shape, or form. And I mentioned this last time with Peter Jackson's trilogy, at least with The Lord of the Rings. Even just from like the color palette, the color correction, the way it was shot on film, the grain on it, and indeed Peter Jackson's intention was that he wanted to make it feel like they were filming history, that this was an actual legendarium, that this was actual mythology. They were filming almost like real life events, and that's kind of how Tolkien wrote the legendarium in the first place. He wrote it to be a mythology for England because England had lost its mythology due to various conquests. We'd kind of adopted things like the Arthurian legend, but that had a lot of elements of French connection to it. And we didn't really have anything. England didn't have a mythology, so Tolkien was like, I'm going to take elements from all these different mythologies, whether it be Germanic, Norse. We're going to throw some Irish in there. We're going to have elements of Greek mythology in there too. Of course, his own, Christianity with his own Catholic beliefs and everything. There's plenty of that in there. And he created what he saw was this, was this mythology for England, and it's fantastic. And I feel like Peter Jackson managed to get that across from a visual standpoint, especially when you watch the Fellowship, well, any of the original, any of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but especially Fellowship of the Ring. There's just a sense that when you watch that film, whether it be the prologue in the Shire, when we're in Moria, when we're in Lothlorien, Rivendell, any location, there is a sense of history to it, and it feels lived in, and it feels real. And I don't get any of that sense. Everything just feels, there's a sense of artifice with this series so far, and there was a sense of that with the Hobbit trilogy as well. I'm not absolving the blame from stuff that we've seen in films as well, but just the acting and the way that people talk and how modern people look, the haircuts and everything, the pretty boy kind of thing. We had elements of that too with the Hobbit, with the likes of Killy and Thorin and everything, where they were meant to be dwarven, but they just made them look like human. They just made them look hot, didn't they? Because it was probably, it's more marketable, I suppose. But yeah, I don't know what scene that was in particular, but I just made a note of it doesn't feel like Middle Earth in any way. It just, I don't know. I don't even know what it feels like. I was going to say it feels like Narnia, but that's doing a disservice to the Chronicles of Narnia, because they're way fucking better than this. Everything in Middle Earth says, every group that we see is so unfriendly. The hobbits leave their own kind behind to die. Elves are looked down upon. The humans are stuck up. It's not a very likable world. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to my knowledge as well, the whole thing about how Numenor has banned elves from visiting. I can't remember. I'm trying to think if that's in the book or not. And maybe it is under the rule of Ar-Pharazôn, but they make it sound like Numenor has never let elves in for a long time. And I can't remember if that's the case, so I don't want to say if it is or if it isn't, because I genuinely can't remember myself. I guess one scene that I did like, so Elendil leads Galadriel to sort of like the Hall of Records, I suppose, like the library of Numenor. And there's a bit of lore building there. There's a bit of world building. We get this tapestry, and it's got, they mention Elros as well, who was the first king of Numenor, who is the brother of Elrond. And we get, Elros on one side of the tapestry with Elvenkind, and then we get with humankind, Elros, and then we get Elrond with Elvenkind. So I quite liked that. I was like, oh, so they have actually picked up a Tolkien book then. They know about Elros. That's encouraging. But yeah, Galadriel just continues to be a bitch. This is the kind of scene where she's talking to Elendil, and she says stuff like, I wish you hadn't brought me here. She's just been an ungrateful bitch. She threatens Elendil as well. She reaches for her sword. She reaches for a dagger to fucking stab him. Literally threatening his life. And this is her rescuer. This is the guy who rescued her and brought her to the nearest landmark. Why would he take her to Middle Earth? Like, he's just picked her up there, like a stone's throw away from Numenor. She also acts really surprised where she's being taken to. Clearly she has like a sense of how long they've been on that ship for, and right before they get into the island, because it's the editing, it like takes place straight afterwards. She says like, what place are you taking me to? And he's really cryptic, and he says, home. And then she's like, where is home? But then the next shot is the boat entering Numenor. So I'm like, was the island of Numenor right there in the distance, in eye shot of Galadriel, so she could see where it is? And also, where the fuck does she think they're heading to? Clearly she knows it's Numenor. If she's read her maps and she's meant to be learned in lore, where there are no other islands around here, so of course it's going to be Numenor. Why is she questioning where they're taking them to? Like, she can see the motif, she can see the armor, she probably knows what the men of Numenor look like. Why is this such a cryptic thing? Anyway, there's a line that Galadriel has as well in this. Every line out of Galadriel's mouth in this show is just absolutely diabolical, the way she talks to people. She says to Elendil, quote, "Who is this mortal who thinks he has the slightest idea who I am?" The fucking hubris and the arrogance of that. Like, Galadriel would never say something like that. Talking down to mankind, like, she had compassion for mankind. She wanted the best for mankind. Who is this mortal? Like, you know, bringing mortality into it as well. I am better than you because I am immortal. Who has the slightest idea of who I am? And again, you know, and Elrond says, I have seen things, and she goes, "You haven't seen anything. I'm the best. I've seen everything there is to see. I'm better than you in every way." And here again, saying that, do you have the slightest idea who I am? She comes across as this like whiny, bitch-faced prima donna who just wants to get her own way all the time, and it just, I don't know, it's like, this isn't Galadriel. This is not Galadriel at all. There's not a shred of niceness about this character. SeaWorld Man says, my nose is a little red. Is that because of the camera? It's not, dude. I guess I've gone down with a cold as of today, or allergies or something. So my nose has been like a tap. I'm actually surprised that it isn't still going right now. So it's actually convenient for my live stream. It's let up a bit, but I've been having to blow my nose all day, so it's just made my nose red raw, unfortunately. But it's nice to know that it's picking that up on camera. But I still jump on for you guys, you know, duty calls, and yeah, we've got to unpack each of these episodes. It feels like therapy, actually. It feels like a group therapy session, this does, which is nice. As a Tolkien fan, it's nice to get everything out after what I've seen. Oh, so this is another great scene as well. Then she goes all really upset. She's like, "Oh, I'm, quote, hated by all who see me." She's talking about while she's in Numenor. She's like, "I'm hated by all who see me." I'm like, you're hated because you're being hateful to people. She's being an absolute thundercunt to every single person she's spoken to. And then she's going, "Oh, I'm hated by all who see me and no one likes me. And why? Because I'm really nice and likable." It's like, you have been horrible. Every single, to the whole court of Numenor and to all of its people, you've looked down upon them. Quote the line before, "Who is this mortal who thinks he has the slightest idea who I am? I wish you hadn't brought me here." She literally unsheaths her dagger to stab Elendil or to threaten him with his life. And then she says, "I'm hated by all who see me." Everything in Middle Earth says, "I've got to go, but great live stream." Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, if you catch the rest of the episode, if you catch the rest of this live stream tomorrow, whenever, do drop me a comment as well, because yeah, it'd be interesting to hear more of your thoughts on this episode. But it sounds like we're on the same page. Do tune in next week. I'll be going live at exactly the same time, 11 p.m. on Friday, for episode 4 for next week. But no, I really appreciate for jumping on, man, and yeah, getting a conversation going. That's why I'm here. And have a very good night, by the way. Oh god, I get to talk about Galadriel's slow motion face. Okay, so Elendil says, like, "Let's ride to the Hall of Records," and she goes, "Did you say ride?" And then we get this like really randomly artsy scene of everything's in super slow motion, and we're getting like this, you know, the horse hooves hitting the sand. We're getting a close-up of the horse as it's galloping in slow motion. I've got to bring up the picture. It's hilarious. We get Galadriel riding this horse in slow motion, and it's meant to be this really artsy scene and everything. But look at her face. She just has this like massive shit-eating grin on her face. She's just like as she's riding, like, it looks terrible. Like, it's meant to be endearing, but she doesn't look happy. She looks like, it looks like you've just asked an alien to smile, and it's just gone. You know what? It's just, I couldn't stop laughing at this scene because it was really trying to be artsy. It was really trying to be like that kind of Shadowfax moment from the Two Towers. You know, he's like, And then, that is one of the Meras, unless my eyes are cheated by some spell. And it's this really majestic white stallion that rides across the plains of Rohan up to Gandalf, and it's just, I don't know, Galadriel's shit-eating grin just made me piss my sides. SeaWorld Man's referring to the room. He says that my arrangement looks to be going awesome. I've got so much shit down here. I've got like all of my stuff because I've removed a bunch of shelves that I had all of my stuff on. So it's just kind of all of around my room, not in camera shot because I wanted it to look moderately tidy, but my room is far from tidy. But what I can say is, and once I've got everything away and sorted, I've got all of my swords on my wall now. All of my Lord of the Rings United cutlery things. I've got my Ringwraith sword, Witch King, Sword of Strider. I've got Anduil. I've got Gimli's walking axe, Gimli's bearded axe, battle axe, Legolas's fighting knives, and Gandalf's staff on my wall right here. It looks amazing. I've got a bit of an armory going on, so it's really cool that I'm finally getting to display the weapons that I've been collecting for ages. And then obviously over there, that's one from the Hobbit. That's Thorin's first sword that he has before he gets Orcris. That's Deathless. So it's just cool to get them on the wall. And I might take a picture and put it on my socials as well. Which, by the way, if you've just tuned in, go and follow me on Twitter. You can find me at Hobbit Fan Editor, and for pictures of my room, I guess, for when I get my room tidied. Okay, let's continue on because I don't really have much more to say. I say this now, I'm probably going to go for like another half hour maybe. So you get the really cringe-worthy slow motion scene, which is hilarious, and then they get to the Hall of Records and they find something which she thought was, I guess, was like the Eye of Sauron or like written in black speech. And in the Hall of Records, they've had this piece of parchment for years. Since like the dawn of time, they've had this parchment. And no one's thought to investigate it. No one's really looked into it. No one knows what it does. But all it takes is Galadriel to walk in because she's amazing and incredible at everything and just goes, wait, that's a map. And she says, it's a map of Mordor. It's this contingency plan where if Morgoth failed, then Sauron and the orcs would go to this other place and start setting up a second base somewhere in the Southlands, which of course is Mordor. They've got the encircling mountains around it, and then the mountain itself. And that's actually what's later on in the series as well. If you remember the shots from the trailers where everything's red and it looks like a volcano's gone off and Galadriel's covered in ash and it's all got like a red filter, that's Mount Doom. As far as I know, that's she goes to Mordor and she has a fight with someone. I don't know if she has a fight with Miriel, but she has a fight with someone on the slopes of Mount Doom, and the volcano goes off, and that's why there's all ash everywhere. SeaWorld Man says the sword looks very Halloween-y with the keyboard. Gives off Halloween vibes. I don't know. I don't know if that gives off Halloween vibes, but Halloween is but a month away, a little over a month away, and I will be celebrating Halloween, and I will be kitting this room out with Halloween decorations, because I love Halloween. It's my favorite time of year, so it's going to be awesome. And I might have some spooky things planned for the channel as well. Okay, then we get to the Harfoots, who are absolutely intolerable at this point, and they're my least favorite part of this whole episode, actually, funnily enough. Not even Galadriel is my least favorite part of this episode. It's the goddamn Harfoots. Why are they in this show? Well, why are they even around in the Second Age full stop? The Hobbits aren't meant to show up until the Third Age. But we cut to this really perplexing slow motion scene, and it's kind of creepy, actually. It's like the Harfoots are like really culty, and they're all in animal masks. And I've written a note here that says that the Harfoots are in Wicker Man. It looks like something from the Wicker Man. It looks like they're doing some kind of like maypole dance. It looks like they're about to do human sacrifices. They're all dressed in like animal masks and skipping and singing, and it's very strange and kind of creepy. We've got Lenny Henry doing some kind of song and dance number. He's doing some kind of like dun 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 hey dun 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 hey, like some kind of like conga line, and it's like nobody goes off. Nobody goes off trail, and nobody walks alone. nobody goes off the trail and nobody walks alone, and they're all in this conga line. Apparently they're planning some kind of great migration, and they're kind of organizing who's going to go in which order in the trail. And Nori's father, who broke his foot in the last episode, he's like, oh yeah, you're going to the back of the line where you're probably going to, you know, be left behind. And it's really weird. So Lenny Henry's character pulls out this book and he starts to list off the names of all the people that have died or have gone missing on previous trails. And I'm like, oh, that'll fill people with confidence. It's meant to be this really touching scene where they're kind of remembering all the people they've lost, but it just comes across as really creepy and like a harbinger of doom kind of thing. And then he straight up laughs about one of them. He's like saying, oh, wolves killed this one died, I don't know, in famine or the plague or something. And then he just says, oh, this guy killed by bees. And everyone just starts laughing. I was like, that was someone's relative. That was, you know, we're all someone's father, we're all someone's son, right? And yeah, they just start laughing like, he died by getting killed by bees. I'm like, that's fucking horrible. It's just like really mean-spirited. And then, you know, I know he's not tuning in right now, but you know, everything in Middle-earth said every group that we see is unfriendly and the hobbits want to leave their own kind behind to die. Yeah, it's this horrible situation that we find ourselves in. They're meant to be lovable, caring hobbits, and they're just absolute dicks. I've got another note here, and it was during one of the Harfoot scenes. I put, seeing these Harfoots makes me root for Sauron. I was like, I want Sauron to come in right now and scour the hell out of the Shire and the Harfoots. They're intolerable, and the really shitty stage Irish accents they're doing, like, oh, top of the morning to you, my name's Nori. I hear you're a racist now, father. It's like something out of Father Ted. It's just these accents are just getting to me, man. And then Gandalf just kind of stumbles in. They've got some kind of parchment with a constellation on. I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I don't really care. Then Gandalf comes blundering in. We're assuming it's Gandalf, the wizard guy, the meteor man, whatever you want to call him, the stranger. He comes bundling in, and he goes up to Nori, and he's like, friend. And I was thinking of in between as like, oh, friend, oh, wizard friend, oh, crash landed to Earth on a meteor friend. Oh, it was so dumb. It was so dumb. And I mentioned last time, it reminds me of the whole E.T. or Iron Giant thing where this extraterrestrial being crash lands, befriends someone, and they're trying to keep them a secret from all of the adults and all of their friends and everything. Then their friends get involved, and the thing that they're communicating with starts to communicate back in broken English. It's like, you know, you can imagine the Iron Giant going like, friend, Hogarth, friend, you know, E.T.'s like, E.T. phone home, Elliot, you know, all that stuff. And now we've got Gandalf going, friend. It's absolute shit. So yeah, the episode ends with the elf trying to get out of the pit. His friend makes it to the surface and he's shot by arrows from other orcs, so there is no way out. He's then thrown back into the pit, and the orcs are like, bring him to Adar. And then they all start chanting, Adar, Adar. And then we get this mysterious out of focus figure, and then the episode ends on an out of focus shot of this person they call Adar, and that's it. And that's the end of episode 3. That's the end of episode 3, Adar, the namesake of Adar, and we don't even see who this person is. It's trying to make you think that it's some kind of, I don't know, it wouldn't even be the Nazgul because the Rings of Power haven't been created just yet. It's trying to make you think it's Sauron or some kind of like imposing lord. I think it's just going to be some kind of elf. I'm actually kind of curious. I'm thinking it might be one of those, you know, the real Slim Shady, you know, the ones that are kind of like the bald, pasty white guys or white women in the white robes with the staff. And there's some kind of cult to Sauron. I think it's going to be one of them. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be some kind of like elven, I don't know, something like that. It's going to be some kind of cult leader. Yeah, and that's the episode. That's episode 3. So I'm just a little over an hour on this. So if I'm just going to sum up my thoughts on this episode, it's another crap episode, and it's it's hilarious to see these people still defending this show, going, oh, you've got to give it its chance. You know, you've got to give it a chance. You've got to watch it. I'm like, I'm now 3 episodes into this thing. I'm 3 episodes into it. What is it, an 8-episode series? So we're going to be halfway through next week. And it's just absolute trash. The story's just not going anywhere. The writing continues to be absolutely awful. It's either on the nose or it's verbose and it's trying to be really profound and everything, and it just comes across as totally flat. The characterization is terrible. Nothing is remotely Tolkien about any of it. Nothing is off the page of Tolkien with any of the characters, especially Galadriel and Elrond and all of the Numenor shit. Positives for the episode: the orcs aren't too bad, I suppose. The orcs are, you know, they've got the Cockney voices. The makeup on them is fine. And Numenor, the island of Numenor, looked quite cool. And that was it. That was all I could say. There's some stuff with Halbrand as well I forgot to mention. Galadriel goes to his jail cell and he talks about something that he comes from a lineage of men that sided with Morgoth, I think. And they're kind of doing an Aragorn thing where he's ashamed of his ancestors, as I've mentioned, and he's trying to rise above that. But the dude's clearly Sauron. The dude's Sauron. There's no question about it. He's undoubtedly Sauron. And yeah, it's just another shit episode. It's just an absolute slap in the face to Tolkien and his life's work, his legacy, the world he created. It's just Amazon trying to get across the message. They're trying to get across that message, aren't they? And that's it. That's all it is. But you know what? It's actually kind of funny now. It's got to the point where I'm actually curious to see what shit they're going to crank out week to week with this thing. Does it kind of break my heart that I'm seeing the world of Tolkien being treated in the way it is? Yeah, it absolutely does. But guess what? I've still got those 3 films. I've still got all of the books. And yeah, it's actually, I've started watching the appendices again of The Lord of the Rings just to kind of cleanse the palate from this TV show and just see the absolute utmost love and care and passion, unrivaled passion that we're never going to see the like of again in media. We'll never see a crew on a film as passionate about, as Peter Jackson and co and all the cast were, that they were when they made The Lord of the Rings. We'll never ever see that again. And I love that it's been preserved in not just the films, but also the behind-the-scenes DVDs and everything. So I've been watching that. I've been loving life. I want to dip back into the Silmarillion again as well. So if anything, this show is just so bad that it just makes me want to read Tolkien a whole lot more, which is no bad thing. I mean, I pretty much read Tolkien on a constant rotating basis, but it's just made me get to it a lot quicker this time. So that's my review on episode 3 of The Rings of Power, Amazon's The Rings of Power. It's not Tolkien's, it's Amazon's The Rings of Power, episode 3, Adar. I will be back next Friday at exactly the same time of 11 p.m. British Standard Time to talk about episode 4. And yeah, we'll hopefully get a conversation going again because it's really good fun. I love doing this. In the meantime, do subscribe to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. As I mentioned, I'm going to be at the cinema a whole bunch this next week. So Sunday, this weekend, I'm going to be at the 3D rescreening of Jaws. And then next week, Pulp Fiction's on, which I was tempted to start a Tarantino retrospective because they're playing a lot. I think they're having a Tarantino season at Odeon. They're playing Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill 1 and 2, and I'm not sure if they're playing any of the other ones. They've missed out Reservoir Dogs, though, which is very strange. I don't quite know why they've done that. But even if I don't do reviews, I'll probably do written reviews. So you can find my reviews for those if you go to my Twitter. Give me a follow on there at Hobbit Fan Editor. I post all of the times that I go live across all of my live streams, as well as I mentioned, if I see a film that I can't jump on a live stream for, I'll get a written review there as well. In the meantime, let me know what you think of The Rings of Power. Are you enjoying it so far? Do you hate it? Are you kind of in between? All opinions are valid here, so please do let me know your thoughts. And if you've been following my 60 Years of Bond playlist, which has been going since April, we have reached the Daniel Craig era now. I did my review for Casino Royale on Tuesday. I will be back Tuesday at the slightly later time of, well, the same time that I usually do my Bond reviews, but later time than this. I'll be going live at 11:30 British Standard Time. That's going to be on the 13th of September for Quantum of Solace, which I'm really not looking forward to seeing, but there's a lot to talk about it. It's kind of the unfortunate Bond film, isn't it? But nonetheless, for better or worse, I will have a lot to say on it. So that's going to be Tuesday, 11:30 p.m. I just want to say a massive, massive thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Nikki, we got Nikki as well. I was hoping to find you on tonight, but no, that's totally fine. You made it at least. I'd like to speak to the manager of Numenor. We all would. But yeah, Nikki, sorry, I am signing off right now. But really quickly, if you just want to do like your opinion on the episode real quick, and I'll give you a shout out and I can read it out because I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on this one. But if you do by any chance go back and watch my live stream, and I've been going for just over an hour, leave me a comment because I'd love to hear your full thoughts on it as well. And yeah. Oh, Nikki says I was napping. That's totally fine. That's exactly what I'm going to do, actually. I am up for work in 7 hours, so I need to go get some sleep. I've done no guitar practice tonight. I've been teaching guitar all day, but I haven't done any guitar practice today. So I'm like, shit, I really need to do some. But I could stay up till like 1 or 2, but then I won't have much sleep and I'll feel like absolute shit in the morning. So I think I'm going to be taking my ass to sleep. But yeah, if you do get a chance to watch the live stream, please do drop me a comment. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it. And I will be back next week, Friday, 11 p.m. And we're going to be talking about episode 4. And we're going to get through it, guys. In the meantime, keep watching Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings. Keep immersing yourself in Tolkien. Read his books. Read The Hobbit, The Silmarillion, The Lord of the Rings, anything in the world of Tolkien. And I will catch you guys next week. Take care, everyone.